Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today, there's an issue with my hammer that I have needed to fix for a while. I thought I would show you guys how I am going to do that. So you can see here and here, there's some indents, and this is just from hitting cold mild steel. Now, that's pretty easy to fix by refacing it. The only issue is it happens every time I forge, so eventually this hammer is going to get ground away. And that means I didn't harden it properly when I made it. So I'm going to show you guys how I... So the first thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to have to knock the handle out of it so that I can heat it up to harden it. Not quite sure how I'm going to do that. I'm going to try and get this metal wedge out somehow. See if I can use a center punch to kind of wedge it out of the way. Now I've got two hickory handles that I bought. I'm going to use one of them for this hammer. I'm going to have to do some modifications though, because I don't like the way that regular hammer handles are shaped. They're a bit too round for my liking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten both sides of the hammer handle and flatten out as many of the swells as I can. And then fit the hammer handle like normal. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get this out. Perhaps if I drilled into the wood just to remove some of the wood. It's too big. Look at this. Let's try this. That might have helped. I'm going to try just hitting this handle out of here now. Alright, finally got it out. The thing about hammers is that, or at least hammers that are constructed in the traditional way, is that the hole inside here is actually hourglass shaped. And so when you put the wedges in the top of the handle, it kind of rivets it all together. But now I'm going to light the forge and I will put my touch mark in this and then harden it. Alright, so now that the forge is ready, I'm going to put the hammerhead in, and I will see you guys in a few minutes. Alrighty. hammer is hot. So, give it a quick touch mark. Then I'll have to check it to make sure that it didn't mess up the hammer eye. Need to get a glove. There we are. I was gonna burn my hand pretty bad there. Okay. Part of the issue is that this hammer isn't perfectly flat on the sides. There we go. All right. You can see there my touch mark. There. I'm going to check and make sure that didn't interfere with the hammer eye. It doesn't look like it did at all. In that case, I'm going to put it back in the forge and it'll be time for the quench. Now it's time for the second quench. I'm hoping, since I've been a lot more aggressive here with the moving of the hammer, it maybe was more effective in breaking that steam layer. We will see when I test it with the file. Ouch. Still a little hot. Water's warmed up. I use water from the hose to cool it off all the way. Alright, so I think it worked. I file tested it, it was much harder, and I hit it a few times against some cold, completely cold steel on the corner of some square stock, and this residue you can see here is actually from the steel itself, so it didn't actually leave any dents in it. I'm actually really happy with how the hardening went. I guess that second quench is pretty essential. I would never have figured that out the first time. I saw that in another guy's video about how he quenches dog's head hammers, so thanks to you. I forget exactly what your channel name is, but thanks to you anyway. So I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to do to the handle, and then I'll clean this up. So I've got the hammer cleaned up here. I'm going to give it a quick beeswax finish. I'm just going to heat it up a little bit and put some beeswax on it. So I'll be back. Alright, I've given it a beeswax finish. Basically all I did was use the blowtorch to heat the hammer up just a little bit, enough to melt the beeswax on it, and then I wiped all the excess off with a paper towel. I'm now going to go get one of those hickory handles and show you guys my plan for how I'm going to modify it so that it's better suited for a blacksmith hammer handle. Alright, so I've got one of these hickory handles. Now what I don't like about these handles is you can see it is thinner up here and it widens out down here and kind of flares at the end. I like to have perfectly flat sides on my hammer handles, and if possible completely rectangular. I'm going to leave this swell here because it'll be too thin down here for my purposes, but I am going to certainly flatten this out. And then I'll have to modify this here at the top to fit the hammer. Now, it actually came with 2 wedges, a metal one and a wood one, so that's actually a great thing. But so yeah, I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to... So the next thing that I've got to remedy, as you can see, I've got it nice and even all the way down. Next thing I've got to remedy is they actually have a polyurethane coating on here, and you don't want that at all with a blacksmithing hammer, because as your hand heats up and as the handle heats up a little bit from you working it, that polyurethane will actually get sticky. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that, and then later we'll char it and then do a coconut oil finish on it. So I've gone ahead and cleaned up all the polyurethane, or at least most of it. You can see there's still some kind of left over here. I'm going to do the rest with just hand sanding, just because it gives me a bit more control over what's happening. Now that I've got a nice cleaned up surface here, I'm going to start working on the where the head's going to be. I want the head to be right at this transition, so I'm going to have to mark this and cut a good portion of it off, and then recut that line in the middle there for the wedge so that it doesn't actually split the handle when I put the wedge in. So now that I've got the end chopped off, I'm going to start shaving it down so it fits the hammer eye. Now I left a little bit of excess material because you want that so you can kind of sand it down once you have the hammer in there and the wedge in there, just so that it looks a little bit more flush. So at this point, the hammer head fits snugly on the end of the handle here. I'm actually going to use a hammer and hit this end of the handle to seat it up to this little transition between the actual handle and where the head's going to be. So now I've got the hammer fitted to the handle most of the way. I'm going to put the wedge in and then char the handle, and that'll be it. Alright, it's time to put the wedges in. So, the first wedge is a little bit too wide for the hammer hole. So I'm just going to kind of mark what I need to cut off here. And I'm just going to use a razor blade to kind of shave the extra material off. So, alright, and then I think I'm going to start the wedge with the metal wedge because I need the actual wedge kind of cut in the handle to be wide enough to accept the initial wedge. So I'm basically using this as a chisel to just open it back up just a little bit. In fact, why am I not just using an actual chisel for this? That would make more sense. Because then it can be straighter. Alright. And now it's hopefully going to be wide enough to accept the wedge. Yep. Okay. Whoa. It's not holding up at all. It's made of pine, which is kind of an issue. Might have to make it out of something harder, make a new wedge. This is just the one they sent with the handle itself, and it's pretty cheap and made of pine, so I may end up having to make a new one. What I am going to do right now, though, is kind of thicken the edge, and then I'm just going to put a very, very steep bevel on the very end there to just get it started, and that might be enough to make this wedge work. We'll see, though. I think it's working. Nah. I don't think they're gonna work. And what's also not very good is now I have all of this wedge material stuck in there. I'll have to reopen it with the chisel. I'm gonna go ahead and make up a new wedge for this real quick, and then I will be back with you guys in a second. Alright, so I've made another wedge up out of some wood I had laying around. I don't know exactly what it is. I know it's hard though, so better than pine. Need to trim it down a little bit. Yeah, about there. There we go. Not quite. A little bit less. There we go. Alright. In we go. Okay. I'm gonna sand this off. Looking pretty flush here on the handle. I'm gonna put the metal wedge in now at 90 degrees to where I put the other wedge. Now this one we don't want a slot for at all, so get it started. And there we go. Alright. That's it for putting the handle on. I think I'm going to shorten the handle just a little bit. All that remains to be done is char it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with a blowtorch here. You can see I've got my charred handle here all oiled up. It's the finished product. This is the second hammer I ever made, so I think I did a pretty good job with it. I'm glad I hardened it. It's going to last a lot longer now that way. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out. Also, share this video around with anybody you think might be interested. That also helps out a ton. But anyway, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.